Hello and welcome to today's lecture on the tools for managing your social media marketing effort. So after you get done with this chapter, you should have an understanding of the following things, and that is what are some different tools that might be available to you for social media marketing? How do you choose the right tool? Is this a tool that can be used across multiple platforms or just a single purpose tool? And then there are free tools, then there are upgraded tools where you pay, and then there are purchased services. And so we want to look at all of those things that are available to you, and hopefully you'll be able to get started and start using these tools along with any kind of social media marketing you wanted to be doing, whether that's for a company or if it's just your own personal brand. Some key things to remember is that not all platforms are useful or appropriate for your target markets. And so we've talked about those, whether you're using Instagram or Facebook or Twitter. So those will be examples of platforms. And that the time and skilled personnel are the resources that you're in the shortest supply of. There's plenty of tools out there, there's plenty of platforms, but it's going to be able to find the people with the right skill set and the time to do everything that you really have to manage, and that's in short supply. So your book goes into some definitions on what they actually mean by a tool. So to me, a tool is anything that's going to help you do your work, whether that is to automate it or to have it hook up to multiple platforms and actually do the posting for you in each of those platforms so that you're not having to do one each separately. So then those tools can actually even help you develop your content, like I said, do the publishing, even do some scheduling. If you have an event calendar and you need to get certain things out on certain days, then some of these tools will have that built in and you can actually schedule when you have to do it. If you think about what we've talked about previously, think if you needed to do something in the morning, something in the afternoon, something in the evening, you don't really want to be sitting at a computer to be doing that. And so with these tools, you could actually say, okay, here's the content that I want to publish on this platform and at what time. And then you could schedule all that for the day or for the week. And then once that's done, you just let the software go ahead and do that. Now, as we look at that software, these tools, there's different types of tools, and they can be categorized by some of the following areas. So you might have a tool that just helps you listen, if you will. That is, it's monitoring certain keywords and it's reporting back to you. You could also have analytical tools, which we've talked about. You could have advertising tools that help you, and so on. And so in just about every category you think of, there might be a tool in there that can help you. Tools are constantly changing, so you need to stay on top of it. Don't just take whatever's in this book and think, okay, that's all that's available to me, and you stop looking. Some other categories that you see here might be purchase services, single platform tools versus multiple platform tools, or single purpose tools. So again, just all kinds of categories that you need to be looking for and kind of do a little research before you just choose one randomly. So as you begin this research, think about which tools are going to be offered by a platform. So if you're using Facebook, what's available to you there by that particular platform? Is there a tool outside of the platform that would integrate that you could still use? Also think about what you need to accomplish. Is that the right tool for what you're wanting? Be sure the tool services the platforms you use. And so this is if you're after multiple platforms? Can that one tool be used for all of them, or are you going to have to use different tools? Then if you're working with a group, you need to think about, is this tool allow for collaboration? And so can many people be using this tool at the same time? And then can you assign different roles that these people can use while using this tool? So you may want to have somebody that can approve content, another person that can publish the content. Maybe they can do both. Maybe there's some other features that you want to allow people to do. Maybe they can only monitor certain platforms and not others, or post to certain platforms and not others. It just kind of depends on what you want to accomplish and if you're in a team or not. Then also think about, is the free tool going to work for you, or are you going to have to pay? And if you're going to have to pay, is there a different tool that's going to give you more features for what you're having to pay? Just don't settle for one because it does one thing that you really like, but there might be another tool that does several things that you like, and it costs the same, and so maybe you want to go with that one. So next we want to look at a category of tools, and one is a single purpose tool. And the example here is an editorial calendar. And so the editorial calendar can be used with different writers, photographers, graphic artists, and anything else that might be involved in the creation of the content, and also the deadlines that they need in order to get their work done for the next person in the process flow. So if we look at that, and I mentioned this earlier, so here you might have, here's what needs to happen on these days and in a particular week, and then you can assign who's the author, what kind of headlines you want, the status, what needs to be done, and so on. So this is a way of keeping you on track and making sure everybody's meeting their deadlines in order to develop that content for the social media marketing. So another example here might be something you lay out for the month, and whether you're publishing it in multiple channels or not, and what needs to take place. So here we might have Facebook and LinkedIn or Twitter, and we're going and showing what's being done in each of those days. So we can lay that out, and then everybody that's looking at that knows what they're doing. Now, throughout the book, it's been talking about how you do your own personal brand and how would you market yourself. And so as you're doing that, you may want to think about using some of these tools that are out there that will help you learn what others are saying about you. So you might have Google Alerts is one tool you can use. You might want to consider some other tools like Mention or TalkWalker and see how they might be used, as well as Social Mention, which allows you to monitor several social media channels and see what they're saying about you. I think your book says this will monitor like 100 different social media channels. So here I've got an example of Social Mention. I went out to their website, typed in my name, and this is what it brings back. And so it may not bring back anything personal on me, and I'd have to refine the search, but it sort of gives you an idea of what's available. So, here's a sentiment, 5-to-1, reach, right, number of unique authors. If we look at sentiment, there are mentions that are generally positive, those are generally negative, so that's good for that particular name. Passion, will do so repeatedly, and so you could get a sense of what your social media campaign is doing if you could hone in on who this particular person was for this one. So we can go down and look at some more information, and you can see that. But it gives you a sense of what's available to you. Some other tools that your book talks about is Google Trends. Here you can see what others in the region or industry are publishing. That might also give you some ideas on what content you might be need to write about, in terms of, if you can't think of anything, then what are the current trends? And so if you're a blogger, that might be a good way to jog your writing, so to speak. Headline analyzer can be used to rate the quality of a headline. There's a tool called Canva, easy to use graphic design tools, so on. Some other tools, there are communication tools. One that allows you to communicate across different platforms is Hootsuite. Hootsuite allows you to, say you have content that you want to post in Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. You can click into or associate with each of those platforms, and then you can schedule your content. And then Hootsuite will do that, which is nice. If you need some complex scheduling, you can do IFTT or IFTT. It stands for if this, then that. And so if you don't like the scheduling options that Hootsuite might give you, you can go to that. And so the basic thing is, research these different tools, do a search for what you want to accomplish and see what tools are available, and then evaluate those. So if we're using this example of monitoring your own personal brand, the last part is you need to maintain. And if you're doing maintenance on your brand, you need to find out what your reach is and your effectiveness is, on different platforms. So you may use some form of Google Analytics to help you with that. And some of these we've talked about already, especially like Clout. This one measures your individual influence across social media channels. And maybe you want to do research on somebody else and see what their clout is, in order to see if they might be able to help you get your brand out or get to whatever you're marketing out across different networks. So as we look at these tools for SMM and not personal tools, we might look at different types of platforms. One is Facebook, and inside of Facebook, there's something called Facebook Insights. So it's a tool for business users, so you're probably going to pay a premium for that. But it'll give you metrics on the use and popularity of the posts, and then you would access that directly from your brand page. We've talked about Mention, and Mention allows the user to create alerts, so that if anytime whatever keyword you're looking for, you want to be notified and where it's coming from. So that's another thing to monitor certain aspects about your campaign. Some other tools that your book mentions is something called Nutshell Mail. It's a tool that allows you to monitor different platforms, and then consolidates the results into an email for analysis. It covers different other areas like Yelp, Foursquare, and City Search. Just a side note, Nutshell Mail was acquired by Constant Contact, so you may have to search for a different name. But there are tools out there, and what you see in your book, they might be outdated and no longer available, or they are acquired by somebody else and they go underneath a different name. You just have to do a search on them. So if I do a search on, let's say, Nutshell Mail alternatives, you can see that as of September 30th, 2017, we can come up with a bunch of different items. And we can go back. And so you just have to go through there and do your own analysis and evaluate. And so as you look at tools, there might be some interesting things that you can do with them. So if you look at Facebook, at the time this book was written, you can do interest targeting. And so instead of looking at all the posts, you could just say, I want to just know who liked their page and maybe only liked their page between certain dates. So that goes to this post end date, date where the post will no longer appear in the news feeds of the followers. And so maybe you only want to let it go on for a little bit and then see how that's done in that interest targeting. You can also do some smart publishing, which allows users to see which of their stories is being posted by different Facebook readers. And so again, it can be helpful to know what you want to accomplish. You can also have Facebook send the content to all who liked a Facebook page, but only between certain dates. And so this is how they generate revenue by saying, okay, if you want to get certain activities out, we can send it to all the people who liked it, or all the people who liked it between certain dates. And so those features are built into the platform. Next thing I want to talk about is multiple platform tools. And these are the tools that allow you to monitor and publish to multiple platforms at the same time. Some of them are free, some of them you have to pay, some of them might be have a trial period, and then after that expires, you have to purchase the tool so that all of the services are unlocked and then you can use them. And so one tool that does this is Hootsuite. And so its basic functions are that you can publish on various platforms and then monitor the activity on those platforms. You could schedule posts to go out to certain platforms at certain times. You can also create reports that you want from each of those platforms that you're sending things to. You can connect apps that will allow you to access other platforms. You can also monitor blogs and certain websites, see if anything's published there. And then if you want to pay more, you can go upgrade, if you will. But, look at the free plan. It can be something you can experiment with and get used to what they have available. And then if you see features that you'd like that you have to pay for, you might want to consider paying for those and going ahead and using that. So one of the things that they get you used to is using their product and knowing how everything works and how the layout is. And then it makes it difficult for you to switch to a different product that has a higher learning curve. And so be aware of that going on. So as you're evaluating one free tool, you probably want to evaluate another free tool at the same time so that you don't get hooked into having that high learning curve for a different product and then not wanting to switch, but now you're having to pay because you want those extra features. You also have the ability to create a dashboard so you can monitor things graphically instead of having to look at a lot of different reports. Your book used an example how Professor Roberts' homepage is a dashboard that she created and how she's using Hootsuite to post to multiple platforms. Another competitor there at the time this book was written is something called Social Draft, Social Calendar, which then you can link into Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and Instagram. Notice that, some of the newer apps, social media apps like Pinterest, aren't being used here, but I'm sure that as different social media uh, platforms come about, that these tools then will build links into them so you can link to them and monitor the content of what you want. So here's an example of social draft and what you might pay for that. So you get a free 14-day trial, but then after that you have different levels that you can purchase. So Team Genius, Team Super Genius, Team Business. And this is probably per month. And notice they're trying to get me to send them more information so they can contact me. But then if you're interested in this, you would go through here and click on each and then see what features are available. Okay, so we move on. The next few slides are examples of what was in your book. So here's that Hootsuite dashboard showing you what's going on. Then you have the usage message box on the Hootsuite dashboard so you can see different things. And then lastly, a calendar style dashboard from Social Draft. So it shows you what's going on. So I'm going to pause right there, and when we come back, we'll finish the chapter.